of 2021. It was originally a protest group to try and hold police to account at the major anti-lockdown protests in London, Brighton, Crawley, southeast sort of surrounding areas. I'd seen an awful lot of very poor policing, very corrupt policing, and it disgusted me. And to be honest, I, at the time, wasn't actually attending the protest. It was my wife. As is the case throughout this entire time of COVID battles and anti-lockdown protests, it is the women that were the mightiest of warriors. So well done to those women. The men seem to join a little bit later, including myself, and only because my gorgeous wife encouraged me after my pessimism and scepticism of protesting and the fact that nobody's listening. I didn't seem to get the point. I would argue to her, she would go to every single protest, whereas I would argue that walking around a pre-laid map of where we were allowed to go, where we're not allowed to go, raising our fists in the air, shouting freedom, to me seemed a little bit sheep-like. And so I was highly critical. However, my beautiful nagging wife, Jess, decided to nag me into attending, because she said if you're going to have an opinion about it, then you need to actually experience it. So I stated to her that, okay, I'll agree to that, as long as we go dressed as peace officers, similar to police, but with the word peace. Now, it was a psychological trick that I was essentially playing on them, because I knew that the police are programmed robots. Okay, they do exactly what they're told to do. They believe they are this mighty authority, and of course they're nothing more than people in fancy dress. That's essentially all they are, given the authority of their puppet masters. So I knew that police officers were programmed to protect their own. So anybody dressed similar in an authoritative uniform would obviously be treated different than the rest of the people, and in fact that proved to be the case. Up until I was arrested, along with my wife, for impersonating police, section 90 of the Police Act 1996. They claimed that we were impersonating police, which was absolutely ridiculous. Now, originally we used a solicitor to defend the case, and that fell to pieces because the solicitor was appointed essentially the day before by the group of solicitors that I was using. The day before, and was completely unprepared, absolutely useless, fumbled and stuttered his way through the case, and we ended up losing. Now, it didn't help that we had a courtroom filled up full of supporters, one or two of whom were very drunk, dressed as sexy police, in sexy police outfits from Ann Summers, and was giggling throughout the entire time. Okay, so kind of pissed off the court somewhat, which turned the court against us, essentially. So our arguments were clear. We're not impersonating police. We have got significant differences to police. Our uniforms were very similar. We used the high-vis yellow. We had the same kind of hats, except without instead of the black and white checkerboard, which represents Freemasonry, we decided to go with blue and white, because blue is the colour that represents peace. So we went for blue and white checkerboard to be different, and also to not represent the Freemason establishment. So, After we were found guilty, I decided we were going to appeal. So I appealed, and I decided I'm not going to use a solicitor. I'm going to fight this case myself and represent myself. I'm very good at arguing. That's one thing I'm good at. So we went to court. I argued the case. I put forward an excellent case that, was clear-cut win, but we still lost. And what was unusual about it was the fact that I actually got congratulated by the judge, who said that I'd done an excellent job. And I got a round of applause from the 22 people who were there supporting us. However, I very quickly realised that the problem was we'd crowded the court with 22 people, right? And that is actually a problem. Now, I know most people think, well, hang on a minute, if you've got witnesses there, then the court's going to be on their best behaviour. That's not how the courts treat it. That's not how they see it. The court, the way they see it, the judge, magistrates, all of those people that work in the court, they believe that's like their home. Okay? Imagine your home and you've got 22 people coming in to criticise you, to watch you, to inspect what you're doing, etc., etc. So I believe that went against us, because as I say, I was actually congratulated on the case put forward, and it was such an obvious win that it should have been. But of course, we were all anti-lockdown protesters, you see, anti-government establishment. And so I think they took that into consideration, and we lost our case on that basis, or they rejected our appeal. Now, it's something that I haven't given up on. I'm going to obviously apply for, when I get the opportunity. Unfortunately, these days I'm working on Peace Officers UK 7 days a week, all day and evening. So it takes a lot of my time. Now, originally, my wife kind of stepped back from the Peace Officer stuff, but I kept going, and what I started doing is going around the country giving talks about promissory notes and how to deal with enforcement agents. So, of course, promissory notes, as Toshi said earlier, they are fraudulent. They're all fraudulent. All of these financial documents are fraudulent. The whole system is built on fraud. But it's a fraud that they accept, right? And it's a fraud under their rules they can't reject. That's the great thing about it. Although they do try to reject it, and they will always reject your promissory note and say, we don't accept it. Unfortunately for them, according to the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, Part 4, Chapter 61, 45 and 46, it clearly defines a promissory note as acceptance of a promissory note as delivery or notification. Right? So as soon as it's been delivered, it's been accepted. It's not down to opinion. Right? There's a common argument, obviously, as to but you created that yourself, just because it's got your signature on it. The thing about a mortgage note, or a loan agreement, or a credit agreement, they're all promissory notes, okay? Exactly the same as the promissory note that you create. It's just printed by somebody else. So if they're claiming that it holds no power, authority, or value, then of course that means the signature that you put on the original credit agreement or mortgage agreement or loan agreement, whatever the credit agreement was, also holds no power, which means their promissory note that they claim is legitimate also has no authority. Okay? Now, why does our signature have authority? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because all of us are very, very, very powerful people. A lot more powerful than we actually realise. Now, by show of hands, how many people here believe in God? Quite a few, would it? So, you all agree that it states that God created man in his own image. Am I right? Yeah. I'm an atheist, So, although I have become a lot more open-minded over the last few years, as I say, I'm a huge cynic and skeptic. But if I accept the fact that, I could easily be wrong, that potentially there is an all-Father, a mighty God, and if he created man in his own image, then surely what that's saying is he created gods. Okay? He didn't create people to look like him, he actually created a whole set of gods. And that's provable, right, in the fact of what you're capable of doing. Okay? You can give life, you can create life, you create the life. Yeah? You can, all of the plants out there, they've not been around forever. Okay? The oldest trees out there are probably a couple of 100 years old maximum. Right? They've all been planted by man at some point. So it's our energy, right, that gives it its life, because an acorn will stay an acorn unless it's planted, right? And so we apply our energy to it, to plant it, and to nurture it, and to grow it, and you see it everywhere. Saplings, true saplings everywhere, okay? Hedgerows, all the plants, pot plants, your gardens, right? All created by man, yeah? Little people, kids, yeah? Pain in the butt they are, but beautiful souls, right? You created gods, yeah? I've created 4 of them. I wouldn't call them gods all the time, but, although I could have my favourites, but these are all gods, and we're all gods, and that's the thing. The trouble is, right, is our kryptonite is fear. Yeah? Fear is what stops us from doing anything and everything. Yeah? We're too scared to do this because of the consequences, which is why I respect people who have forms of steel. Okay? People like my good friend Rob the Rat Catcher, Dave, yeah, excellent warrior, David, lots of other people. Victoria, taking on the establishment. They've ditched their fear. Yeah, and that's what everybody needs to do, is just ditch the fear. I spend most of my time on the phone talking people through what to do, how to do it. In emergency situations, quite a lot of the time, where they've got enforcement agents at their door, right? I just say, right, well, don't stand there and argue with them. Don't start, asking them where's the wedding signature, where's the court seal, all of that sort of stuff. Just open the door and go, nah, and shut the door. Simple as that. And they're like, well, yeah, but what? No, you've shown them, right? A lot of people say, hide behind the sofa, don't answer the door, just ignore them completely. Nonsense. Don't ignore them completely, because if you ignore them completely, they'll assume you're out and they'll come back later or the next day or next week. Okay? You need to let them know that you're getting nowhere here. Okay? I'm not worried about what you're saying. Those words that you're firing at me, they're just spells. Yeah? You're casting spells. But those spells only work as a trigger to emotions if I absorb them and start believing them and start thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Let me take this off here, let me take that. They can't take anything without a fight. Yeah? And boy, would they have a fight if they try. Okay? People just need confidence. Right? Confidence in themselves. They need to undo all the indoctrination that they've had all their lives, throughout their school life. Yeah? The school is, as we all know, it's so corrupt. It's just an indoctrination factory. Yeah? All of us recall when we were at school having morning, well, back in my day, before electricity was invented, back in my day, we used to have twice a day, morning and afternoon, they call the register. Right? And they go through everybody's name and everyone, yes, here. That's not to say to make sure that they've got all their sheep together. That is to indoctrinate the kids into answering to that legal fiction. Because who else calls you that? Yeah? Who else would call me David Stewart? Yeah? I'm David to my family, to my friends, to my circle, to my community. I'm David, not David Stewart. Do you know what I mean? So when they call out that name and I answer to it, and I noticed this with my son. Two of my kids are home educated. One went on to university and got a degree in criminology and psychology. She now works at the University of Southampton. And my son, who is my namesake, David Jr., I home educated him. And he's now at college and will eventually go on to university. My youngest, Ozzy, everybody was calling him Ozzy, okay? Austin is his birth name. But nobody calls him Austin, right? But what I noticed, when I went to the school to pick him up a few weeks ago, because it's primary school, they shout the kids one by one as the parents are there, they shout them, the kids will come out and match up with the parents. And with Ozzy, it started off, Ozzy, Dad's here, Joe, Mum's here, etc., etc. But then suddenly, it switched and they started calling him Austin. And I thought, that's a bit odd, because we've never referred to him as Austin. And even Ozzy doesn't refer to himself as Austin. So why have they started calling him Austin? Well, of course, it was a rhetorical question, because I know why. Because they need him to answer to that legal fiction, okay? And indoctrinate him, that's your name, that's you, that's your personality, that's everything, that's you. Which of course, we know it's not, okay? It's a dead legal fiction, dead entity. Doesn't exist in reality, it has no lungs, it does not breathe, it has no veins, it does not breathe. Okay, so, for this level of indoctrination, we've all been through it. We've all had it all of our lives, and it's been reinforced, obviously, by the media, by, the judicial system, the policing, councils. The council don't exist to me. They don't exist. I know not of the council in my area, which is West Sussex, yeah, because I don't need anything from my council. Yeah, so why do I need to pay council tax? And I can honestly say I'm 57 years old now, never paid a penny of council tax in my life. Never paid it when it was community charge, poll tax, whatever you want to call it, never paid a penny. I've had the demands, I still get them. Every single month, letter comes through the door, Mid-Sussex District Council. I pick it up, I don't open it, I rip it in half. I know there's not a check in there for me, right? So I know it's a demand for something. So I just rip it in half, throw it in the bin. Now I don't shred it, I don't sit there and, start ripping it into 1,000 pieces to disguise all. I rip it in half simply because that's the bare minimum, and as far as I'm concerned, maximum of what you should do. It's so that it can't be fished out of the bin and used as identification to set up a bank account somewhere. So just rip it straight in half. But I refuse, as I say, to shred it into small pieces, because as far as I'm concerned, that takes more energy, and these people, I see them as energy thieves. Yeah? They're after trying to steal my energy. Yeah? And I'm not going to let them. So I don't respond to their demands, their letters, their fake summonses that they actually create themselves and not the courts. I don't respond to any of that. What I do is I wait until they knock on my door. As soon as they knock on my door, I answer it, I let them start speaking, and I'll go, nah, and shut the door. Or, no thanks, not interested, shut the door. Sometimes just simply, nope. Depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I like to fuck with them, really mess with them, ask them lots of questions. I had somebody from Jacobs enforcement come round, and he said, so the Jacobs I'm looking, are you Mr. David Stewart? And so I'm asking all questions. Everything's got to be a question. Yeah, so you make no statements, and therefore you create no joinder with them. So I'm asking them questions. I'm saying, who are you? What's your name? Who sent you? Jacobs. Who's Jacob? Where have you enforcement agent? I'm working on behalf of West Sussex County, District Council. I'm like, why didn't Jacob come? Why has he sent you? Is he scared? What's wrong with him? Is he ill? Can't he come? Just ask them lots of nonsense questions, right? Any question whatsoever, if you want to. If it goes on for quite a while, as I say, I just like to talk with them. I just like to mess about with them because while I'm taking up their time, I'm taking them away from somebody else, right? So somebody else is being saved because I'm wasting their time. And at the end of the day, there's nothing they can do to me. They have no rights. This is the thing. They have no rights. Okay? They're not sent by courts. They're sent by their client. Yeah? So therefore, they're trespassing. They're trespassing. It's as simple as that. Even if they're sent by a court, they're still trespassing because you've removed their implied rights of access. You've got a notice of them, so it says no trespassing private property and a fee schedule should they decide to trespass anyway, right? In any situation, even in a situation with an eviction, okay, they send the bailiffs, they send the police. Well, first thing you do is explain to the police Section 26, Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015, right? Now, I would recommend you all learn it verbatim, okay? Subsection 4 especially, right? So even if you just learn subsection 4, and I'll quote it here, subsection 4 provides that a police constable exercises the powers and privileges of a constable properly if the exercise of a power or privilege is for the purpose of achieving a benefit to the officer or a benefit or detriment for another person, and that a reasonable person would not expect the power or privilege to be exercised for the purpose of achieving that benefit or detriment. Now, if you can learn that off by heart, right, that and also the police oath, right, the police oath, you should learn that off by heart because all of the protections are written in the police oath. I do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the King and the office of Constable with fairness, integrity, diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people, and that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved, and prevent all offences against people and property, and that, while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to law. Now, as I say, all the protections are in there. Not a single police officer knows his oath, by the way, as I'm sure you're all aware. Not a single one knows his or her oath. Okay, they read it once on a piece of paper when they were awarded their warrant card. Yeah, but all the protections are there. If I have my way, which as an organisation I intend to one day have my way in getting the law changed so that they are required to cite their oath on every shift, beginning of every shift. When they have their roll call, they have to cite their oath, right? Just like kids do in America when they pledge their allegiance to the flag of the United States and blah, blah, blah. And they eventually know it all off by heart. So should the police, because all the protections are within that, yeah? Let's take, for example, a police officer says to you, I've looked at this warrant of entry, and as far as I'm concerned, it's legitimate. Right, so you just failed your oath. Okay? It states in your oath, diligence. You must apply diligence. That would require you to contact either the court to find out if it's legitimate, or your legal department, the police force, or your superior officer, at the very, very least. Yeah? What's your qualifications in the provenance of legal documents? How do you determine what is legal and what isn't? Oh, it looks like a piece of paper with some writing on. That's as far as you know. Okay, so you failed on diligence. Yeah? When you say to them, can you identify yourself? And they go, it's on there. Yeah? Bloody rude. Yeah? It's on there. Well, it's stating your oath according to equal respect to all people. Is that how you would address a court or a superior officer? Yeah, or somebody you respect? You have to respect everybody equally, regardless of their position. Okay? Another one within the oath is prevent all offences against people and property. Well, if they're about to let them so-called bailiffs into your property and tell you that you're going to get arrested if you don't let them, right, which is completely against the law, then they're not doing their job, are they? Preventing all offences against you as one of the people and your property. So all the protections, including, as I said, upholding fundamental human rights, the human rights that are laid out. Now I know we're all men and women and not humans, we're not the pure man, a version of man, a monster, okay? But that's the language they use, those are the rules they come up with, and they have to stick to those rules. Yeah? What they rely on is your lack of knowledge of those rules. Yeah? And the problem is a lot of people try and use the sovereign argument in that jurisdiction, in that maritime admiralty jurisdiction. And of course it's not going to work, because on the one hand, these people are not going to want to set any kind of legal precedence that opens floodgates and allows for everybody to self-declare as a living man or woman. Okay, so, and in fact, I got sent last year a link to a forum which is for the legal industry. So you've got judges, magistrates, police officers, court clerks and whatever, who all use this particular website, this forum. And the link I was sent to the comment was that, because the thread was to do with the freemen on the land, right? So sovereign argument. Freemen on the land. And this was a judge who had commented and said, I haven't had one of these freemen on the land in my court yet, but as soon as I do, they're definitely losing their case. And they're definitely within block capitals, you know, to really emphasise it. And I thought, well, that's again, I mean, first of all, how foolish of you to put that on a public forum. That's idiocy, you know. But then again, who's holding these people to account, you know? And if you try and hold them to account, you'll just be dismissed, right? So we do need to come together as a people and exercise our power and learn the knowledge, yeah, because that knowledge is power. Full knowledge is power. The more knowledge you've got, the more powerful you become. The more you can dispel the lies that they tell you, the indoctrination that they spent their lives and your lives trying to program into you. And it is a program, because at the end of the day, this is a computer, okay? Works exactly the same as a laptop does, except this is the most powerful computer in the world, you know? I don't mean mine specifically, I mean everybody's, okay? I'm not boasting. But it's a powerful computer, but it's the easiest computer in the world to program, okay? I'm programming yours now. Others have programmed mine and yours this evening, today, you know? That's the thing. You change everything all the time, right? You're programming people all the time. I've used this as an example before as to the difference that you can make, right? Just a simple thing, like I live about 30 seconds from my local Iceland supermarket, right? So if I need some bread or milk, I'll pop to Iceland. 30-second walk, and you know, takes me probably, I'm back in under 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? Now the thing is, it was one day I was standing in the queue, and quite a queue had formed behind me because the person in front of me had lots of stuff, and I'm thinking, I just got to thinking, my God, you know, everybody in this queue behind them, when they leave the shop, they're going to have left at least another, let's say, 30 seconds to a minute later than they would have done had I decided not to go to the shop, right? So the difference I've made, that means all of these people behind me, let's say they walk past 100 different people on the way home. They're now walking past, thanks to me, they're walking past a different 100 people. And that occurred to me also one day, or was reaffirmed to me one day when I was held up in a queue actually in Sainsbury's, and I was walking back with my shopping, and I bumped into somebody who I've always tried avoiding. Not because they weren't a very nice person, but because you knew if you bumped into them, this person would chew your ears off. Yeah? Now I wasn't talking to myself, David, so this person would chew, and of course I stood there for 20 minutes having a conversation, a catch up, right? Had somebody decided, oh, I won't bother going today, I'd have missed that person, yeah? And my timeline would have been completely different. And of course the timeline that I went on, that I travelled along, because I was delayed and so on and so forth, led all the way to me standing here now holding this microphone talking to you guys. Yeah? Everything happens because of everything that's ever happened. Yeah? To every single person that has ever existed in the order that it happened. Yeah? All your thoughts, one thought goes into the next thought, goes into the next thought, goes into an action, goes into another action, and before you know it, you've got, so somebody, for example, had a thought, let's have an event at Houston, right, to do with the realms of England and get all these speakers, and that thought turned into another thought, into another thought, into an action, into an interaction, and then ended up now with all you people, all you good people here today, rather than standing in queues holding up people from going about their business. So everything affects everything else. So even if you think, well, what can I do? How can I change things? You're changing things all the time. You're changing things right now. Okay? That will have, you know, if you went back in time, in a year's time, you came back to this time and changed just one thing, took just one person out of this room, then everything changes over the course of that year. Yeah? The butterfly effect, as it's known. Okay? Everything changes, including your thoughts. Yeah? In 2003, and I'll end with this, in 2003 my brother was killed. Right? He was punched, single punch to the head, to his left head ball. I was with him when it happened, and it led to him falling into a coma for 4 days, which he never recovered from. Right? Now, everything changed in my life, and my family's life, and his friend's life, and my friend's life, and their friends' lives, and it just rippled on. So even though not one of you people knew my brother, have met him, heard of him, he affected all of you. He changed your life, all of you. Yeah? He didn't have to do anything spectacular, he just had to exist. Yeah? And go about his day, go about his life. Yeah? But everything changed for everybody around, which means it changed for everybody around them, which means it changed for everybody around them, and it ripples right across the world, and those ripples go on and on and on forever, right? So if you believe you are powerless, you couldn't be further from the truth. All you need to do is get over the apathy, yeah, which is our biggest bonder to discard. Right? Our apathy, can't be bothered, or what difference can I make? You can all make a huge difference. You are all making a huge difference right now to everybody on this planet. Okay, without you even realising. Yeah, your thought process later tonight, you'll be going over things and thinking of things that you heard today. Yeah, and that changes everything about you. What time you go to bed, what time you wake up. Yeah, the dreams you have throughout the night, it changes everything. So you are important, you are powerful, you just got to stand up, come together, right, and all fight the common enemy. Yeah? the powers that be, the puppet masters. And we can all do it. We can do it with, as it was mentioned earlier, even being active on social media, as just one sort of element. Throughout lockdown, I was banned virtually every day from my local Facebook gossip group because of the truths that I was trying to put out there. And I was piled on by people that I didn't care. You know, I had people actually come to me. I made a very good friend out there, actually, John, who came to me and said, "Oh mate, you get some real stick." I said, "Oh no, I love it. It's brilliant." And he said, "Well, I feel quite bad for it." I said, "Don't feel bad for me." I said, what they've just done, what they're not realising is they've just opened up the debate, the conversation. I threw a bomb in there and they jumped on it. And decided to explode it even bigger than it should have been. Had they ignored me, I'd have got nowhere with it. But I'm not appealing to them. I'm not trying to wake them up. I'm trying to wake up the silent majority, the people who are watching with popcorn going, "Ooh, this is getting a bit feisty. You know, this is an interesting debate." Right? I'm spitting the stuff at them. To make a difference to them, to reassert things. Now, couldn't be happier only a couple of weeks ago. It might not have even been that long ago, less than a couple of weeks ago, where I'm seeing all over Facebook. I'm trying to avoid Facebook these days, but I did go on Facebook. My wife's always sending me on Facebook videos and insisting that I watch them, and of course we should all do what our wives tell us to do, as we all know. So I'm on Facebook, and one of the stories on the feed was about the new COVID variant. Oh my God, Frankenstein, have you heard about it? Oddly enough, man-made Frankenstein, but there we go. But I read the comments, right? There was about 1,500 comments. Not a single comment was in support of COVID or the COVID narrative. Every single one, without fail, was saying, "I'm not falling for that again. I'm not having that. You're talking shit." Right? Every single one. Now, what a turnaround that was from just a few short years ago, where everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, you selfish." I loved lockdown. I've got to say, COVID, I think, was the greatest thing they could ever have come up with. I'm absolutely overjoyed, and if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change that. I'd let that happen, let that ride out. Because every person that wakes up, right, makes a difference of two. Okay? If you've got 10 people on this side of the fence, 10 people on that side of the fence, one climbs over the fence, you've now got 11 and 9. You add one to yours, you take one away from theirs. Right? And that's a one-way flow, by the way. It never goes the other way. Okay, so you can make a difference, waking people up, not just about COVID, that's kind of ancient history now, but about all this other stuff that you've learned. Just tell one person, you've got their attention, you're changing their life, you've changed it already just by getting their attention. Okay, so keep going to groups like this, keep supporting groups like this. Form your own groups even if you want to. But keep coming together, keep pushing at every single angle possible. You've got to hit them at every angle. I come from a different position to some of the people talking here tonight. Just a slightly different angle, that's all. I use different methods, different things. But that's fine, because as long as we're all hitting them at the same time, we are making a difference, even if it seems like we're not. So keep up the fight. Keep the power. You are all gods, okay? Remember that, okay? And use it against them. Thank you so much.
Thank you! Good speech, man.
Okay, so we're drawing to a close here, but we'll need Terry to come back and do his council tax case study. While he's crawling to the